So I continue to have the floor. That's so for the last 15 minutes, and I will stop right now at 4 p.m. No extra time, I guarantee you. Easy exercise. So I'm not going to comment all the day, of course. I'm going to concentrate on key messages. Of course, I will forget some messages. I do apologize in advance. This morning, so we started in this very dense and rich conference with the message that we all have to be on board, present for future generation, and of course, the private sector / the finance industry, we investors have to do the job, and not starting in 2030, but we know we are coming from Glasgow today. It's a challenge, but we are on the right direction, and Friedrich told us that when we opened our commission in 2007, the impact of our ESG sustainable finance sustainability story was 3%. Now we are near 35%, so close to the mainstream trend. Training is key, and I will come back to this point with the CESG program. Frank remind us the long legacy at EFFAS, and I was reminding already the great job we did in 2010, showing the way to savvy with the KPIs industry by industry. We have then the input from Patrick de Cambourg with the important job delivered by EFFRAG with different steps. I remind you that at the European level, we had the non-financial reporting directive as soon as in 2014, and the famous New Deal arriving in 2019 with a lot of challenges, especially one regarding the quality of data, and a lot of speakers remind us the importance of quality of data. We will have a lot of input in the next months and next year with different steps in 2022, 2023, 2024. And Patrick de Cambourg reminded us that it is in practice tomorrow for us. So it arrives very fast. The scope of CSRD will cover a lot of corporates, something like 50,000 entities. And one colleague for Germany was saying 20,000 entities just for Germany. And of course, SMEs will also be encouraged to adopt voluntary roles. And important also to remind that Europe wants to move addressing all E, S, and G factors and not climate change, even if, of course, climate change is the urgency and the priority number one. I continue because I want to keep on time. There are 11 different working groups at EFFRAG with one specificity which is important to remind, and perhaps one of the trend we see emerging, the concept of double materiality. And for the next months and next years, one challenge will be for us investors to manage at the same time the traditional way we function, I mean, financial materiality, and this concept of double materiality with, beyond that, all the stories of externalities and so on. Easy to say, but we are on board. And the EU standards, to conclude, with Patrick de Cambourg speech and keynote are also co-constructed. It's not a silo, only Europe, but also with regular contacts with international initiative, GRI being, of course, at the front, but also IFRS, of course. But we have the risk. I mean, we all know that today, that there is a risk for us as investors to have in front of us multiple reporting stories, European one, IFRS, and so on. Just for the taxonomy, of course, we have the European one, and we discussed already, but we have already more than 15 taxonomies altogether, and we sharper reach 30. So that's the question of potential confusion. We had then some developments regarding climate change and Paris Agreement. Keep in mind that there is a first initial remark is that all the job done by governments and countries will not be enough, and that the citizen and we investors also have to do the job. It was interesting also the case developed regarding China and the fact that when you look at the big figures, I mean, half of their emissions are for local consumption and half for exportation for the rest of the world. That's something we have to keep in mind when we have macro analysis regarding sustainability. Also we had important development regarding the development of the net zero initiative, whatever asset owners or asset managers for the finance industry. And there were also discussions, debate regarding exclusion investments or possibility to have escalation procedures before exclusion. That's really a big question that we have all together in our day-to-day. Then we had José Luis, which did important developments regarding the taxonomy and why it's a game changer. Interesting that Europe, which loves the battle of digitalization, wants to put decarbonization at the front to become and to use it as a competitive factor. That's part of the Green Deal. We had the three questions. What makes the EU taxonomy different? What next? Because it, as José Luis described, it's not yet stabilized. You know that what is clear, if I may say, are the two first objectives. We have the four other environmental objectives. We have also potentially a social taxonomy. The EU put a project in last July, so we have all that hundreds of pages altogether, and of course we have a complexity to address, and we can hope perhaps at the end of the day globalization and simplicity, and not losing convictions, of course. But we have also to remind, and thank you, José Luis, for reminding us, is that because of sustainability, climate change, and so on, the world and our economy globally, but including, of course, in Europe, is going to be transformed significantly, and not only in 10 or 20 or 30 years. So that's something we have to be prepared for the next years and decade. And the calendar is already here, November 2011. We had then the panel dealing with corporate reporting and disclosure. And of course, we will circulate all the presentations that you had today, because that was the questions which we had from online. So of course, that's part of the open source story, and happy to share that with all participants and colleagues. Yes, we are in a time of game changing. There is also another elephant in the room. I mean, regarding all the development with EFFAS and EU and the IFRS Foundation. Of course, the hope we as investors is at the end of the day we will have something common. Of course, that will be the best, but we are still looking at the developments, and we can notice that EU wants to keep the lead, and as a first mover, EU wants to establish first some standards. So that's the reality today. I was saying that EU also is promoting double materiality. We will see via IFRS if we see some convergence, because it can be partially double materiality, no partially double materiality when we look at the IFRS. And European position says that double materiality requires more demanding standards than only compline or explain approach. So I just put here the complexity of the debate that we have today. Of course, I'm not here to give you easy solution or answers, but that's what the European state and global state state of the art that we see. We had also some conclusions from the different speakers for this panel, which were engage, 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 a smart lady, but also filling the gaps, feedbacks regarding implementation experiences, giving feedbacks. I think that today that's also the objective of this conference, is also giving feedbacks. And something that where I agree completely today, pure ESG approach versus pure financial approach comes to an end. That's sure. We really need to integrate both directions, or we will not function. ESG and asset allocation, of course, that's a strategic issue and a new frontier one. So we were very happy to have that subject on board. That's really a new frontier. At the same time, it is so important. I remind you that for us investors, the large majority of the financial performance alpha we will generate will be via this strategic asset allocation. So clearly, we have to think about the thematics. Of course, it's complex. Again, there are some problems with data, methodologies, and so on. But the person from DVS showed us their curve of experience with different ways regarding ESG factors, CO2 intensity, SDGs, and SBTs. And it was interesting to see the way they target to optimize via regions or sectors, and that they can, especially was positively surprised by the carbon footprint that you can reduce by 50% with tracking error of maximum 100 basis bips. I think I'm not wrong, but it's quite interesting to see this kind of developments. Other latest trends, credit agencies are clearly integrating ESG factors to impact issues, I mean, ratings of issues. Interesting to notice the message that at the beginning, regulations is more oriented to deal with equity and less with fixed incomes, fixed income. Reminding also that for fixed income, a lot of issuers are not listed. That's a point. And of course, we need to progress. Important also to have the better granularity of information. And the subject of SMEs. I mean, there are, of course, really specifications to think about SMEs, to have them all on board. I remind you that in Europe, but that's also true outside Europe, the SMEs, they create jobs, they do innovate, they are in line with the territories. They are so important for everything. So it's really a message that I think we can consider. And one figures coming during the discussion, 86% of the listed companies have a market cap below 1 billion euro. So that's something we have to address. And generally, they have no ESG ratings. So that's also something that we have to keep in mind. I'm close to the conclusion. Latest trend, net zero initiative already developed the point. The question of data and data quality, present data such as scope 1 and 2, future data, scope 3, scope 4, CESG, beautiful story. More than 2,300 professionals passed the exam, 84% from Europe, but also outside Europe. And we shall be more than 2,500 professionals by the end of the year on board of that successful program. with some updating, of course, some modules focusing on for European needs, but also with the objective of having a global pictures. And I was very interesting to see that there is a module 10 for investment in Asia. My last remarks is that we've done this conference in a COVID context, so you know that it has not been so easy. So happy to see so many people physically. Thank you to be present, but also online. And I would like really to thank all people at DVFA and EFFAS, which have done a great job today for everything and for the success of this event. And they were really fully committed in the last days, the last week, including today. And you know that the age of pioneering of the sustainable finance is over, and that's a good news. I mean, we have to accelerate, but that's why we have this acceleration of regulation, and I think we have a good balance to find between no regulation, that was the age of pioneering, and perhaps avoiding too heavy, complex, and not stabilized regulation. And finally, so thank you for your presence, and the message for investors, for financial analysts, because that's our DNA, is that in the 19th century, we learned how to measure financial performance. In the 20th century, we learned how to measure the financial risk associated to the performance with modesty, because I mean, every investor has a different way to measure the risk. And today is the 21st century, and we just have to integrate more and more the social and environmental impacts of our investments. Thank you for your attention, and have a good evening. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Maybe just one final remark online would have found really, really nice. Thank you so much for the enlightening information you provide us throughout the day. Really inspiring and interesting presentations from all the speakers. Looking forward with anticipation for your next ESG event. Thank you once again all.
Thank you.